Well, hey, everybody. My name's Ezra, and this is Jeff, and this is the Weekend Extra. Thanks for joining us here. This is Mother's Day weekend. We just had a great, heard a great message and great service about really exploring what it's like to put our kids and kids in a place where they can grow in their relationship with God. Right. So we got lots of different examples that you talked us through, but really where the rubber meets the road. We can all say, yeah, I should not prioritize my work so much. I should, prioritize the things of the Lord. But where the rubber meets the road is really where, like, how this applies on an individual basis, right? Because the choices that would be right, there are universal principles, right? And you talked us through a bunch of those things. But how does like me as a dad or moms and dads, single parents, how do they begin to navigate those choices, all of those different choices, how to be a part of those things?
I think the key to all of that is looking at your child and where your child is or your children are and looking at their heart for God. Okay. And so what I'm ultimately trying to do as a parent is I'm trying to lead them to an environment where they take root and grow in the Lord if they choose to. And so I'm looking at my kids and I'm looking at my individual family, everything from my job to my marriage to, the way that our family chooses to approach things. And then I'm going to make kind of cultural decisions and pragmatic decisions about how to best position them to take the routes that I want them to take. So for instance, like you and I, you have done public school with your kids all the way through, and that's a pretty high value for you and Michelle.
All of our kids are in Akron schools.
Yeah, and it's important to you guys. Heidi and I have either homeschooled or done Christian schools with all of our kids.
So which is the right choice?
Well, the right choice is my choice.
No, but I know you well enough that when you say these things, you're not giving, and this is the right answer.
That's correct.
You're describing pathways.
Yeah. Right? So what I would do is, and what I did was Heidi and I looked at our family and said, what's our family need and what do our children need according to the type of parents we are and the life that we live. So for instance, I have 6 children. I have twice as many children as you do, right? and I looked and said, I work all weekend. So I work every Saturday, every Sunday, all day. Yeah. So that's what motivated us to homeschool our kids, is when they were little, I wanted to have a relationship with them. I have a lot of children, so like I wasn't able to kind of sneak it in on the edges and be there, for the morning, those kind of things. And we decided that if we homeschooled them, they could travel with me because I travel a lot more than you do. Yeah. They could travel with me and they could be with me according to my schedule. I also was finishing school through that whole time. Yeah. So we looked at our family and said, "Ooh, here's an option that will work for our family." It wasn't that's horrible, this is perfect. It was, this is pragmatic for us.
This is the vision that we have for our family.
Right.
Here are the highest priorities.
Right.
How does schooling fit into that?
Bingo. Instead of saying schooling is the highest priority and we'll fit into this, we looked and said, knowing our kids, having a relationship, all those kind of things is our highest priorities. This works really well for us in this phase of our life. Now, we don't homeschool anymore. Our youngest still is, but our other 5 aren't. Yeah. We went to a Christian school, to CVCA, with our kids. And again, I looked and said, I have 5 boys. And I looked and said, I need the help as a dad. I need the male teachers, the coaches. I felt like with the amount of children, if I spent an evening with every one of my kids, I would see them each kid once a week.
Once a week, yeah.
So we looked again and said, with the size of our family and with the school available to us, we chose that environment, which is not a perfect environment, by the way, but we knew that the teachers and the coaches and stuff like that would basically be on the same page with us.
And you knew what you're getting yourself into. You knew what that would do for you and your family, or hoped it would. Right. And you evaluate that.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
I mean, and at some point, that schooling situation works great for your kids, and sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
Right? But you don't expect the teachers to raise your kids for you.
Exactly. So I'm not turning them over. I'm just looking for the help.
Yeah.
You guys, like, you would use the schools to connect with a lot of people through music and sports and all those kind of things. Yeah. My family has a different outlet. So we have the CrossFit gym and we have the kids sport. Like we have a different outlet to make those connections with people. So we don't use the school the same way that you do.
Yeah, without our kids having those outside relationships, my whole world, our whole family would revolve around Grace Church.
Right.
And so how do I meet people that are exploring a relationship with Christ, or how I would, develop those relationships on those pathway that we just simply wouldn't have them.
Right.
So our kids in those schools, now we have to be much more careful about what are you learning and how is that going,
right.
and that open conversation. Things like sex education doesn't happen on my terms,
right?
And
exactly.
so I kind of got to beat them to the chase on those things, and
yeah.
Just got to stay on top of it.
And I have to teach my kids not to be Pharisees, not to just be caught up in the church culture. But what's interesting is if you and I sat down and wrote out our priorities as parents, they would probably be identical.
Yeah.
And then we're just looking at our life, our marriage, our children, and saying these are the paths that work for us to accomplish that goal.
Even those strengths and weaknesses. We're
right.
like, we would be, because Michelle and I looked and said we'd be terrible at homeschooling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Heidi's like, I got this.
And she did have it because I was not involved at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So it takes a lot more. I mean, what kind of courage does it take to be able to look at societal norms and be like, I will participate in that one and I won't participate in this one?
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to stand alone. You really do. And I would kind of encourage that as a general rule to be confident in who the Lord is. I love that Jeremiah 17, I think it's verse 8, where it says, trust in the Lord and have confidence in him, right?
Yeah.
And so,
it's who you have confidence in.
Yeah. So I'll give you for instance, school's just one thing.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, Heidi and I decided that we wanted, actually when the kids were little, we decided that the kids being in the third world is a very high value for us. So when my kids were 9, I started taking them to Haiti, Brazil. A couple years ago, we went to Chad, Africa with our oldest son, one of our most dangerous places in the world. And I looked at Heidi and I said, are we on the same page? If I don't bring this kid home, that we believe this is something we should do. And of course she was. Well, you will be shocked at the people in the church and out who said you're being irresponsible.
Yeah.
And we're saying, no, this is a value for us. And we're going to do it kind of regardless of what everybody around us thinks, because we want them to have a passion for the world. When they were little, we would go into the inner city and live there for a couple weeks and run Bible camps. Same thing. And so you're just looking and saying, this is what we want. We trust God. We have confidence that what God values is what we should value. And if we got to cut against the norm, we got to cut against the norm. We're not trying to make a statement.
Yeah,
we're just doing our thing.
That's what I feel. Some people do that kind of stuff, and they do it in a belligerent way.
Right.
You foul pagans. This. They might want to make a statement against the world.
Right. No,
and
that's not us.
No, you're like, I just want to trust God above all things.
Yep.
And I want to have confidence in Him. I like the way that you said that. The confidence and taking the courage to be like, we can look a little different.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we don't shower or have weird haircuts or something. But But you do those things and say, no, I'm going to follow the Lord. I'm going to pursue what He has.
Yep.
Yeah. I've seen other people, like the way you spend money, the way you spend your time.
Yeah.
How what you say to your kids. Even while we're preparing for this weekend, I thought a lot about how you lead your kids, and even the questions you ask them.
Right.
How are your grades? Did you do well in school?
Right.
Did you get, are you in detention or da-da-da? Well, were you nice?
Yeah.
Did you make a friend?
Did you share Christ with anybody?
Did you share Christ with somebody?
Did you love the outcast? All those things.
Yeah, and even the question that you ask can start to relay. And so I think that some of the norms, it can happen in the little ways like that. It's more of culture of the family about what you value. And I think was a big challenge to me. I'm as I heard the message, I'm like, are the values of my heart the things that are coming out in my family?
Yeah.
Or am I using the scripts that I hear other parents say?
Bingo, that's it.
Because it's in there. I really want to follow Christ, but does it come out of my mouth? Does it show up in the way that I do time? I do time. Yeah, but but that's the challenge, and it's something that we're always pursuing together. So thanks for spending this time with us.
Yeah.
Well, this has been the Weekend Extra. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.